Uh, I can't find, when I'm in as administrator, I don't see how to share.
What's going on?
He's got the music playing. I just texted him to see what's going on, see if he's there.
But I'm not hearing any of the music on my other computer.
He just told me my mic was muted. No, I'm not hearing any either. I think when the music's playing, it's just that. He's looking in the chat room. Ah.
Oh, wait.
Welcome, everybody. The music right now. We'll be on in a moment. Good morning. I'm Amy Kahn and a board member here at Center for Spiritual Living Denver. And I want to welcome you to our live broadcast. We're a loving and expansive, powerful and prosperous community in the heart of Capitol Hill. Our primary concern is always for the well-being, support, and growth of our community. And we're so, so grateful that you have chosen to join us today to watch our service. We plan on being here every week on our virtual platform so that we can encourage and uplift each other and stay connected. We'll continue to meet online for the coming weeks until we feel that it's safe for our community to return to the center on Sherman. In the meantime, please feel free to share ideas in the chat by emailing info@csldenver.org, and we will listen. Know too that we are here for you and are so grateful that you have joined us this morning. We will continue to hold each and every one of you in our prayers. Today we are joined together with Reverend Elzia Sekou, Rumi, and Teresa to have a Q&A session. And many of you sent me some questions, or sent us some questions to ask of our practitioners and our Reverend today. And so let's get started. Now, I will tell you most of the questions were around the virus and what's been going on in our community. So I wanted to start by a question for all three of our panelists today, which is, how does science of mind see what's going on, view what's going on in our community? Let me start with Rumi.
Starting with the questions first before the invocation.
Oh, let's start with an invocation. Sorry about that.
You skipped, there was a song in. Let us pray.
Yeah, the music isn't working right now, so we'll just go right to the invocation.
Okay. Well, close your eyes. Father, Mother God, we know that thy spirit is with us, blessing us as we move into this service, blessing all who are participating in it, guiding each one of us with wisdom, peace, and safety from these difficult times. We bless all who have come to hear the service. We bless those who are dealing with this insidious virus, knowing that Spirit is with them, healing and comforting with love and grace. I give thanks for this presence of Spirit, for the knowledge that I am safe in its hands, and I release this prayer into the law, knowing that it is all well, all done. And together we say, and so it is. Amen. That's it.
I just wanted to breathe in for a moment and take that in before we began. Okay, now let's get to some of the questions. let's do the question I had just asked. In these days, with all that's going on in our world, we recognize that many of us are homebound, and there is obviously a pandemic happening in our society. So most of the questions had to do with that pandemic, and many people had asked, how does science of mind view the pandemic? How do we as a one society see that pandemic? So let's start with Teresa. You're on mute, Teresa.
Thank you, Amy. First of all, I do want to acknowledge this is a very difficult time, and everybody's feelings are very validated with what's going on. This is a challenging experience for all of us. We've not really ever experienced anything like this. However, the Science of Mind teachings do stress that we are all one and that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so although we don't really believe in duality, because we believe in one power and one source and that we are all connected and part of that source, we still experience duality on this plane. But this is a time when we can really focus on the teaching that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And the Science of Mind teachings reflect that if we focus on the good, if we stay centered and focused on the good, that we can be much more at peace in our hearts as we transition through this. So that's a few thoughts I have about teaching.
Thank you. And Rumi.
Well, I would echo what Teresa has just said. We are taught in Science of Mind to lay emphasis on the good rather than on the negative. I think the fear that we have, and all of us have a certain modicum of fear, is making it more difficult for us to deal with this. Yes, there is a pandemic. Yes, there are people being affected. The economy is affected. But every times we have seen the world has gone through this sort of fear. Something has happened. We've taken wars, we've taken illnesses, economy, but we've gone through it and we are still here. And that is something that we have to be grateful for. So I think a daily dose of gratitude helps us to move through this time for all that we have and all that we have. Go ahead, Amy.
No, Elzia, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, you know, Science of Mind teaches that, as Teresa stated earlier, that there's only one thing that's taking place here, and that's God. And so sometimes that becomes a little difficult to realize and comprehend when we're dealing with times such as these. But I think the essence of what we're dealing with now is that we are being called to a larger idea of faith than we've ever been called before, because we're dealing with things that there is no clear-cut answer right now of when it's going to end, of how do we truly get beyond this. And when we look at the profound effect that it's having on economy and health and stressing the medical system. But the thing to keep in mind is that there is a power, there is an intelligence that is everywhere present. And we only need to look at how intelligent that one mind is, or that God spirit is. It's just by looking at the complexity and the ease and beauty of our human body, of how we have all these different systems that work together, and they work without us knowing. In this short time that we've been online, I would think that very few of us have thought about breathing or thought about our heart beating. But the intricacy and the unity of that has kept it going and keeps it going, just as God keeps us going. And so it's that unity of all these things that allow us to have faith and rest assured that all is well.
Now, one person, thank you. One person also asked if this is a vengeance from God. Is God having vengeance on us as a people right now? Rumi, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, thank you. No, God is not a vengeful God. We do not believe in vengeance. And if so, what is God taking a vengeance on? We have to ask. If God is the creator, has made us humans who are spiritual beings, why would God want to take vengeance on us? For what? It's like God taking vengeance on itself. In our belief system, we deal with the good and try to get over the negative. Look at the positives. And I don't believe that this is a vengeance. I have not done anything that I can think of which would require God to get its revenge on me. I think that is fear-based thinking. That is a human way of thinking, not a spiritual way of thinking. And so, no, there is no vengeance. It's just nature that God has created, moving the way it does. That's it. We are still safe in the hands of God.
Thank you. So, but so many people are feeling this a pain right now, and trying to figure all of this out. And I hear you, and I know what you're saying, but there's still questions that I see coming up. And please feel free to add more questions if those of you on the line do have questions. How do we stay centered in these hard times? Teresa, do you have ideas on how people might be able to stay centered?
Yeah, this is a great opportunity for us to really dig into our toolbox and apply the coping mechanisms that we've either learned in the past or that we can find through reading or online sites. There are several different ways of just listening to your breath, or writing a prayer of your own, or just staying centered in the moment and hearing and seeing and listening to what's happening around you. But it's really necessary at this point in what is happening to stay centered. And it's really difficult because there's so much going on, and yet there's nothing going on. This virus knows no boundaries, and it doesn't have any boundaries economically or geographically. And it is offering us, if we can look at it as an opportunity to reconnect with ourselves, to have time for reflection for ourselves and connecting with others in a way that we haven't connected in the past. This is a tipping point in a lot of ways, and there's a rebalancing and resorting going on. And so trusting in your quiet reflection time, trusting that all is unfolding as it needs to, and that you can always reach out to a practitioner because we're available during this time for you at any time that you feel like you're just don't know what to do and you're beyond yourself. But really, this is the time to apply our spiritual tools. Thank you.
Thank you. David actually just wrote in with a question. Thank you, David. He said he's seen pictures of Los Angeles and Denver skylines that are clear now. In fact, I know I even saw a video with dolphins in the bay in Venice. So he's asking, is this happening to clean the earth? Elzia, I know you and I had an interesting conversation the other day, and would you share some of what we were talking about?
Sure, sure. You know, that's a great question, David. And I think, you know, I had a conversation with Amy the other day, and a friend of mine had shared the idea that we are being put in timeout. And if you know what timeout, if you have kids that were young enough and they were able to experience that whole timeout thing, it was a time of reflection. If someone was out of alignment, not necessarily they did anything wrong, but if they were out of alignment and they weren't in tune with the environment that they were in, whether it was school or home, they were asked to go into timeout and reflect on what was going on, what they did, what their part of the ideal situation or not so ideal situation had occurred. And so I think at least one of the things is that we're in a sense being put in timeout. We are multi-dimensional beings. You know, we have a physical aspect, we have a mental aspect, we have an emotional aspect, and we have a spiritual aspect to ourselves. So the idea of being balanced, of how do you get these things in balance, is key to each individual, to us collectively, and to the planet and the globe as one thing. So this moment in time is allowing that to happen. I mean, I'm sure some of you may have seen the news reports where in certain places the pollution is going down. In certain places, rivers are appearing to get cleaner from different chemicals and things that are there. So it is definitely a time, I think, of reflection that says, how do I begin to live from all facets of my life and not get too skewed to one side or another, not get too spiritual or too physical or too mental or too intellectual, so that we have a lot of rhetoric and there's no compassion, there's no action, there's no way of doing things that enhances everybody.
Well, thank you. It certainly is a new time for all of us, shall I say, a time for spiritual growth. Some say, though, that they really just don't like change, you know, and this is a time of shifting, a time of change, transformation. How can I deal with changing times and these big shifts that are going on in my life? Rumi, do you have any words for that? Things that I can do?
Yes. You know, I'm one who's not very comfortable with change either, but I have to remind myself that we've always experienced change since we were born, one way or the other. Growing up is a change, growing old is a change, but we adapt. As human beings, we are resilient and adaptable to change. I like to think that this change that is being, in a way, thrust upon us is for the good. As Reverend Elzia said, we this is a time for us to reflect, to see where we are at, to feel more of our spiritual side and a little bit less of the physical side, because all these changes are more on the physical plane. And maybe that will help to make the change on the spiritual plane, where we have more faith, we recognize our power, we recognize our oneness with everyone, with the world, with all that is. So, in a sense, instead of hating change, perhaps we can welcome it and say, okay, this is for the good in my life now.
Thanks. That's beautiful. Now, why don't we then turn to some of the good? I noticed that Alice, who's typing for Center for Spiritual Living, had written about the positive things she's seeing happening in the world. Perhaps each of you could share some blessings that you're seeing happening, some things that are good that's going on in the world, as Rumi was just noting. We'll start with Teresa and then go to Elzia and back to Rumi.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Well, it certainly has allowed me to slow down. I have a very busy life, and often I think, oh, if I just had some downtime to read any book I wanted, or to reconnect with myself in a way that I haven't done for a while, or clean out a closet. It's really giving me the gift of a little bit more time that seems like we're always wanting. And it's also allowed me to really reconnect with my family virtually, which has been actually a lot of fun. And we've been using Zoom a lot, and it helps us to remain connected even when we're very much separated.
Yeah, well, I think, as Teresa said, it is a time to slow down for sure. And so for me, it's given me a chance to reconnect with family. My son is home from college, and so we are here now, and I get more time with him. He's growing up to be a young man, and so now I get a chance to talk about things and watch some TV together, and so that's always helpful. My daughter is in Chicago, so again, she's in school, but she's not able to come home. But we've scheduled family time on Zoom so that yesterday we played a game together. And so it's given us a time to reflect and create new ways of being. And it also making us more conscious and figuring out how to use this new technology we have. And so I think that's a good thing, is to become more comfortable with the world we're moving into of technology, to figure out new ways of connecting with people that is personal, that is not flat. And I think the ability, ultimately, as Teresa said, is to slow down, be more observant, and be more engaged.
The good that I see in this, I really, unlike Teresa and Reverend Elzia, I really didn't need the time to slow down, because since I've retired, I've slowed down quite a bit. But one of the things that I was very grateful for yesterday, I drove to my bank, and driving on the streets, there may be 2 or 3 other cars. It was amazing. And I thought to myself, this must be like the way the world was many, many decades ago. Not that much traffic, not that much noise, not that much pollution. And one of the things that is doing is I am grateful for my life right now. That is the good. That is the good in all of this.
Can I say one more thing about this question? You know, I always think about Mr. Rogers when he always would say, when something bad happens, look for the helpers. And it is so wonderful. And we always talk about, you know, there's so much bad going on in the world. But when these things happen, we see the heart of people come out so much more. It's so moving to see the people who want to reach out and help in any individual ways that they can. And, you know, they're still able to come together and work together. And like Elzia said, through technology means, but there is so much good out there. And that really is what we need to focus on, is looking for the helpers, looking for what I can do personally in a way to help, even if it's just sitting and saying a prayer, because we are all in one consciousness. And, you know, we always hear about that butterfly effect, that the wings of a butterfly you will take that breath in, even if you're across the planet. And this virus is so connected. It is so much oneness, and we have a choice personally how we respond to it and how we react to it. We don't have any control over anything else, but we do have control of how we respond or react to it. Thank you.
No, thank you. And I love that question. I mean, I may not be a practitioner, but I would, as a board member and a member of this community, I feel the community coming together. I feel blessed by the number of people who are joining us online. I find it amazing how we can connect through technology. Like, blessed that the technology has helped us all be safe in this time too, that we have the mechanism to be warned about this and hopefully flatten the curve a little bit. Yes. And as we've all said, you know, leveraging the technology to be together at this time, to share with each other, and to support our community as we can, both with CSL Denver and the greater Denver area, the greater Colorado area, the U.S. as a whole. Anyway, I feel a sense of inspiration with all this as well, even in the midst of knowing people who've been challenged through this.
Yes.
And so Suzanne had written in earlier and asked if we had any resources that we may be able to provide if people knew of places they can go. You've mentioned prayer and what you've done for the positivity, but do any of you have specific resources that we can offer for our community at this time?
I did hear on the news last night number 211, because so many people were calling 911 for information on the COVID virus, which was tying up the services. So they have developed a line, and you just call 211 if you have questions, or if you want a resource, that they have a list of resources that they can provide for us.
Thank you.
And I also think there's a book by Ernest Holmes called This Thing Called You. I think that is an excellent book, especially for times like now, because in this time of reflection, it gives a good perspective on who we are, the powers that we have, the connections that we have with God, the power of spirit, and it gives a good insight, I think, into how to deal in so-called good and so-called bad times, because in reality it's just time, and how we focus on it makes it so, if you will. So I think that book, and one other thing I think is the idea of breathing, especially now. This to get that idea, there's several different breathing techniques that you can use to stay calm, where you inhale, you pick a number. If you inhale 4 counts, you hold for 8 counts, and then exhale for 4, or exhale for another 16. I mean, there are many different practices, and you can look them up on the internet, of how you can get in touch with your breath and allow it to calm you down and be more introspective and aware. One thing I think that's happening right now.
I know I use, and I don't work for this organization, so I'm not trying to sell anything. But Insight, INSIGHT Timer is a free website that offers meditations, and they've got, I don't know, 50,000 meditations or something like that on it, and it's free. And I've used that, and it has different meditations depending on what you want to work on that day or that evening. It has sleep meditations, music, gongs, all, you know, you name it. It's got different meditations on it. So it's a nice resource that I've enjoyed using. Rumi, did you have any resources that you can think of?
I'd like to add that as Reverend Elzia was speaking, breathing and learning about breathing. In fact, this afternoon, I'm listening to a seminar of Jim Donovan, who talks about using breathing to heal and to relax, to be more comfortable with whatever's going on. And the other thing that I think is tapping. If anybody knows about that, EFT, tapping is a great resource to help allay anxiety, and I use both of those. We are not immune from feeling the fear, but using these resources helps us a lot to cope with whatever is going on. That's it.
Looks like Tim is talking about using YouTube. There's a bunch of ideas going across in the live comments, which look wonderful. Alice has posted a list of newthoughtradio.net and other resources that she has found that you can check out in the live stream on Facebook. So that's great. I want to ask a final question, and it's about faith. Are there things that you all are doing to maintain your faith at this time? Again, let's start to go from Teresa to Rumi, and then lastly to Elzia on this one.
That's a really good question. I have, I continually check myself and ask myself, what am I feeding? Am I feeding the good or am I feeding the bad? And I also remind myself that I am a spiritual being having a human experience, and I have come to learn, but ultimately this is not a permanent state for me, that my permanent state of being is spiritual. And if I focus on the spiritual teachings, I can stay centered. I can feel much more supported no matter what. And keeping myself in the moment, just knowing that if I'm starting to venture into worrying about the future, I get really anxious. And if I'm upset about what is happening in the past, I get more angry. And so I remind myself, just be here right now, and know that I'm supported and I can respond and react by choice and how I want to be in this moment.
Maintaining my faith. Well, prayer is one of them. I try to, when I feel down or feel fearful, confused, I say a short prayer, because I know that aligns me again with my spiritual self. That with as Teresa has said, in fact, I forget what she said. I'm mostly dealing with prayer and also being mindful. If I begin to think negatively, I try to catch myself and say, I have to be in the moment. This isn't helping because this is about the past or the future, not about what is happening right now. Right now, in this moment, all is well. I am perfect. And that's basically keeps me on the right path. That's it.
Well, I think one thing with faith, there's a saying I like that says, faith is the oil that takes the friction out of life. The ability to have faith in something comes from the idea that you have done something several times and you've gotten a result. So you have faith in it. When you get into your car and you start the engine, if all the conditions are right, you have faith, and actually it moves into a knowingness that the car will start. And so when I think about the idea of faith, that's how I look at it. It helps get through those moments when you're unsure and when you are not fully aware of all the conditions and things that may be going on. But because of previous experience of being in situations where things might not have been perfect, you have faith that they will work out. And one way that I use to maintain my faith is through contemplation. It's to take a quiet moment, take a quiet space, and just contemplate on different ideas, different experiences that I have. As they say, you know, life is sometimes very clear, or oftentimes very clear, when you're looking in the rearview mirror, because you're looking at things that have happened and you can see how they played out. And so one thing in contemplating that, you can see that we've all found ourselves in not so nice circumstances, but we've been able to get through them. And when we look back in that rearview mirror, so to speak, it gives us faith to move forward and to keep and maintain that faith by practicing our principles and practicing whatever spiritual practice, whether it's reading or running or prayer or meditation. All these things can be different forms of practicing and maintaining your faith. So that's what I think in terms of faith. And I think, again, you know, it's, for me, I always go to that saying, faith is the oil that takes the friction out of life. It makes it move. I have faith that this will work, that we will get through this, and that we will maintain a life that is balanced and connected and realize our wholeness and connection with God. And so with that, I'd like to move into prayer. So if it feels comfortable for you to close your eyes or just sit and relax your body as we move into prayer. And so right now, in this moment, in this hour, where we are surrounded by the intelligence of the divine, that spirit that moves in, through, and around all things, that uplifts us, that enlivens us, that allows us to be exactly who we are, and knowing that in this moment now, all is well. And so I know right now that everyone in the sound of my voice that's online and hearing this prayer, that they are uplifted, that they are hopeful, that they are relaxing in the idea that God has a plan for all of us. And sometimes we may not understand that plan, but we trust and know that because there's only one thing, because there's only God that's acting right here, right now, that we are wrapped in that knowledge and that love of God. And so I give thanks. I give thanks for the opportunity right now, as dire as it may seem, to practice, to understand my relationship with myself, with others, and with God, and to realize that we are one thing, working together in harmony like the systems in our body work together to support the whole. And so in this moment of Thanksgiving and celebrating life and celebrating each other and celebrating the community of humanity, I just release these words into the law, knowing that they will not return for void, and that they will come back pressed down and running over. And so it is. Amen.
And so it is. We're so grateful for everyone at CSL Denver and for your gifts, whether it's in time, treasure, talent, and especially during this time of change. Whether it's your first time joining us or you're a returning community participant, we want to thank you. Thank you for your continued support of the important work we're striving to provide. Right now, there are many ways you can support the Center for Spiritual Living Denver with contributions. With a credit card, you can use your cell phone or device to send a text. Just text to 844-454-0918, and then just type the word GIVE, GIVE, and the dollar amount that you would like to offer. So, for example, if you want to offer $5, you would get text to 844-454-0918, the words GIVE, and then the number 5. As always, you can always give on the csldenver.org website just by pressing the donate button. Or if you prefer to give with a check or money order, you can provide it to our email or to our mailing address at CSL Denver, P.O. Box 300416, Denver, Colorado 80203. And just note, we are also now set up with King Soopers and Amazon Smile. So we have many ways to help. If you are just shopping there, you can link your accounts to the Center for Spiritual Living Denver. And when you conduct your normal shopping, a percentage of all proceeds will come to our center. Simply email us at info@cslddenver.org, and we can give you more information if you'd like it on that. Finally, I just want to say how blessed we are to have you all as members of our community. Know that showing up alone and being with us in spirit and soul and body provides us with such a gift. And so much of this time fills our hearts, our souls, and the entire center as we join in community as one. Elzia, would you like to say something to close out the service?
Yes, I'd just like to say, reiterate what you just said. Thanks everyone for being here, and we hope you continue to support us, and we're here to support you. So if you have any prayer requests, you can put them on info@cslddenver.org, and we'll get back to you. If you'd like a private session with myself or one of the practitioners, if you go to our website, you'll be able to find some contact information there. And we look forward to being on the other side of this and seeing you in person and sharing ideas and concepts and all manner of things that we've learned through this time. And so once again, thank you. And please join us next week. Next week, we'll have Reverend Michelle Scavetta from Mile High will be doing the service. And so we look forward to having you with us and join us and continue to support us. And we just thank you so much. Peace, love, and light. And so it is. Hope to see everyone soon. Peace and blessings. Have a great week.